Hey, and welcome to the Solid Verbal. Now would be a perfect time to consider subscribing. Yeah, that little subscribe button for year-round premium college football content. That's it. Here's the video. Enjoy. Subscribe.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildebrand, that fine gentleman over there in the heart of the Midwest. Dan Rubenstein, sir! Week 5. Week 5. Can you believe it is week 5 already?
Yes. Yes, I can. Just because every successive weekend I get more excited, a little more tired, and have more conversations about where do you go on Saturdays and Sundays when you might be able to help raise children? Where exactly do you go? And as I'm in my content bunker basement watching games. So yes, I can believe it. And this one is wall to wall. This one's wall to wall. Just beyond pleased to announce the return of Centaur Saturday.
No.
Centaur Saturday 2, the Centauring. No, it's not Centaur Saturday once again. Yeah, hell yeah, Ty. This is an incredible weekend ahead of us.
I am super excited for the weekend of college football ahead. We're going to preview all the action to the best of our ability in a few moments' time. This episode, all of our episodes, don't forget, driven by our great friends over at Geico. Many folks are watching this live now, courtesy of Verballers.com, where you can also go if you want to vote in the top 10 poll bright and early on Sunday morning before we release it around 9:30 Eastern Time. You can also tune in to our Spotify live show this evening, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West. Just go to solidverbal.com/Spotify. And last but certainly not least, solidverballive.com. We've got a live show in about a week.
Yeah.
New York City, we've been pumping it out there across social media and email, and we got to post something on YouTube. We forgot about YouTube.
That's true.
We got to post it. We got to paper every available surface to let college football fans in the greater New York City area know that we are coming and we're going to play a game show next Friday, October the 7th.
We're going to put a sandwich board on you in Times Square, tastefully nude Ty wandering the streets of Times Square, advertising the show with the sandwich board, solidverballive.com. October 7th, Friday night, before week 6. So that's coming fast upon us. So, yeah, it's going to be incredible.
Dan, Ty, help. I need picks of the week.
In our wise old age, Dan, we don't mess around at the top of this show more than we have to. People are tuning in for picks and predictions and previews, and that's what we are here to do. So, a few things that we should mention. There is a hurricane bearing down on the Gulf Coast of Florida. That hurricane is going to affect all sorts of things over the next couple of days. First and foremost, if you are listening in that region or if you know people in that region, we hope you are safe. We hope you are sound. We hope you're out of harm's way. Football is obviously secondary to all of that, though there will be a component of the hurricane with weather and wind and whatnot, delays.
Postponements. Yeah, we already have, I think, 2 Sunday kickoffs as of the time of this recording, right?
That is correct. So we will have to get into that, but just to kind of get this out there before we go any further, we hope everybody is okay. Have you given any thought to a nickname for this Saturday? I was perusing some of the comments that we got as people are tuning in live and giving their suggestions. Safe Harbor Saturday from Andrew is very fitting. A Stay Safe Saturday from Jason. Tim says, sorry about last week's defensive performance. Won't happen again Saturday, which isn't bad.
Oh, my God. Be more specific. Yeah.
Symphonic Saturday from Shay. I don't even know what that word means, but it sounds...
It's like a symphony.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Might be a little too intelligent for you and I. What do you have?
For you and me, just for the record. I am in my hopes of this hurricane seeing Florida and deciding to turn around. I have Seaward Saturday.
Seaward.
I'm celebrating all things hurricanes not touching down on land. So I'm celebrating all things via this weekend, all things aquatic out to sea, not flooding, not heavy winds, not destruction. So I'm taking the theme of part of the weekend and I'm flipping it, Ty. See, I don't have a sound because I don't want to get too involved with it, but I looked at a number of these matchups and made allusions, comparisons, going with the gut. Seaward Saturday, hurricane turns around, celebrating all things out at international waters.
I like it. So in a college football sense, maybe your team is staring down the barrel of a very difficult contest.
Yeah.
Maybe it just blows over.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't go quite the way you were fearing. Maybe it just turns around and goes a different direction and things end up
Ooh,
for the
that's
better.
not bad. To be clear, this is not C-word, the letter C, W-O-R-D.
It's different.
That is a different thing. That is a different thing,
Very
though.
different.
We can come up with C words for different matchups if we really want to stretch things out. But this is S-E-A-W-A-R-D, I
like
believe.
it.
C-word is in the direction going back out to C. And so unexpected flips, as you've described it, I'm okay with that.
Have you given any thought to when throughout the course of this weekend you could go out and do stuff? If you have to run to the store, if you want to go see cats, if you got a little bit more time on your hands or some disposable income. I couldn't find a good one. I'll be honest. I mean, I'll play the sound. I could not find a good one to me that resonated, because I went through putting this preview doc together really all the way through Friday night into deep in the night on Saturday. I don't want to miss any of these windows. I'm very excited about Seaward Saturday.
Yeah, Seaward Saturday is going to be electric. I would say extremely early Saturday morning, like hours before kickoff.
Right.
Go that extra mile for your significant other or for your children to earn those brownie points. You know, breakfast in bed, go out and get some coffee for them. Maybe Friday night, date night. You just really lean into that, but you're home for the later UCLA-Washington game if that's intriguing to you. Thursday night is not as interesting. Maybe Sunday morning after you've spent the totality of Sunday, you're like, let's do fun things Sunday morning after I watch the Solid Verbal live
After you watch
stream.
the live stream, after you vote in the
Yes.
poll, to be clear.
Yeah. So I don't see it either. It's just there's too much that's interesting to me. And it just happens to be one of those weeks. And this is what, week 5?
Week 5.
It's one of those weeks where you can convince yourself that some of the disappointment with your team or other teams is temporary. It's just, well, they're rusty, start of the season. Yeah. It's still an interesting matchup against this other team. Whereas you get into week 9 or 10, you're like, well, this window seems more obvious. That's what happens.
All right. Shall we dive in?
Like, hey, Michigan State might not have a terrible defense. You never know. And thus, we get
Shall we dive in?
Let's dive in. Let's.
12 p.m. on Fox. It is Michigan 4-0. It is Iowa, or should I say the Iowa defense, 3-1. Michigan favored by 11. I am super heavy on Michigan.
Oh, my God.
I am super heavy on Michigan. Uncomfortably heavy on the Wolverines.
Hold on. This is my moment. I'm stretching out. Oh, you silly bitch. Oh, you dumb silly bitch. Continue.
I was surprised to see, when this line came out, I was surprised to see that there was some money coming in on Iowa. The only reason that makes sense to me is if there are people out there not paying attention. If there are people out there looking at this and saying, oh, this is just Iowa being Iowa. It's just what they do. They win games like this. Kirk Ferentz has made a boatload of money doing this. This is just the style of play. This is who they are as a team. I would say to those people, I would contend that you have not been paying attention. That though Iowa has been Iowa in that sense for many years running, and they've been very successful at it, this year feels different. This year is different. Perhaps you saw some of the stats floating around on social media. If you look at the SP Plus, 101st in offense, first in defense. If you look at metrics that we don't generally abide by, but things like scoring offense, 131st, worst in the country versus best in the country on the scoring defense side. In terms of half teams, Dan, we have never seen a half team like 2022 Iowa. It's profound. In many ways, profound that we would see Iowa kind of be at both poles with offense and defense. But I just keep coming back to the fact that this is not your standard issue Iowa. This is not your father's Iowa. The offense is way worse than we've ever seen before, and that doesn't bode well for Michigan. That doesn't bode well at all for this Michigan game.
If Maryland were 10, 11-point favorites at Iowa City, would you feel strongly about Maryland as well?
No.
Okay. What separated Michigan and Maryland last week?
7
Arbor?
points.
7 points. And did Michigan open that game up with a touchdown drive of exactly 10 yards based on a boink of a return? Was that ultimately what could be considered a separating moment?
That is one interpretation of the dance we saw last Saturday, yes.
So if Maryland were favored by 7,
No.
at Iowa City? Would you go
No.
5? 3.5 points. Maryland's favored in Iowa City. You go Maryland?
No.
So
No.
if I'm going with my Seaward Saturday, Iowa City is a bit of like a boggy death lagoon, right? There's nothing tropical.
A boggy death lagoon?
Like all of a sudden you're out for like a nice little paddle and you're just like, why? It just got darker this direction. Let me see what's up over there. It's never good. It's never good. And so the boggy death lagoon that is Iowa City, this is where happiness and dreams go to die.
I thought that was the JMA Wireless Dome.
Multiple places can have it happen at once, Ty. There is something that should be terrifying about J.J. McCarthy not looking as sharp last week. First-year starter, 2 new coordinators, everybody just penciling in Michigan. Another killer year, even if they don't, return to playoff form and lose to Ohio State. I'm not there, Ty. I think this is... First of all, if you're saying... What is Iowa's rank defensively? Whatever metric you want to use.
First.
Points per drive or yards,
it's
whatever.
first in all of them.
Maybe the best 6-7 defenses in the
Sure.
country. We'll call it that. Double-digit dog at home? Forget the laughing stock that is the offense, Ty. Like, are you going to adhere to an ethos ever?
Me?
Ever?
Are you telling me
Yes.
I'm an unprincipled man?
Yes.
Wow.
Excellent defense at home as a dog in a difficult place to play. Traditionally, Jim Harbaugh has had difficulties in Iowa City. No, I'm at this point, I'm siding with the boggy Death Lagoon. Give me Iowa plus the points.
If you're going to hurl insults at me, this could be the last show ever. Do not miss this one. Tell your friends to download solidverbal.com.
Yeah, and by the way, home dog of the week. How about that?
Whoa!
What type?
Yaku's home dog of the week.
Why are you doing this to yourself, Ty?
Damn, Michigan
Situationally, this is a terrible play.
What happened the last time Michigan played Iowa? A better Iowa team, a better offensive Iowa team. What happened?
They beat them 42-3.
42-3.
Yeah.
It's a lot of points. It's a prime number.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't know. Yes, it
Mike
is.
McDonald, Cade McNamara, Josh Gaddis, different team.
I don't think the Iowa offense is scoring on Michigan because they haven't been able to score on South Dakota State or on Iowa State or on frickin' Rutgers for more than 13 points.
That's what the defense is for, Ty.
My only hesitation is the J.J. McCarthy thing that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I thought about that.
McCarthy's going to want that one back.
I'm like, how deep do we want to dive in here? J.J. McCarthy, first road start against the Iowa defense in Iowa City. That, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's definitely like a Vincent D'Onofrio vibe from Men in Black.
Yeah, I got that.
Where
I get that.
Not pretty, but effective.
But bear in mind that Michigan's defense is also very good. They're not just going to roll over for this. They're not. They're not as good as Iowa. But the Iowa offense is so bad they're not going to be able to move the ball against this Michigan defense. So I'm way off. Maybe I'm way off here, but I just don't see this as close. I think Iowa gets destroyed in this game because nothing thus far through the first however many weeks of the season, nothing thus far has shown any kind of offensive improvement. And I get that the Maryland and Michigan thing was close last week, but at least Maryland's a team that can score, Dan. You know they can score. Iowa can't score. Iowa going down hard this week, Michigan.
I love this.
Michigan maybe lock of the year.
Lock of the week.
I love it. I love the juice from you. And Michigan's got a great defense because UConn, Colorado State, and Hawaii couldn't do anything cool. Have fun.
I mean, they were good last year. Iowa scored 3 points last year. Biggest game of the year.
Offense. Whoa.
Biggest game of the year.
They was good last year.
They can knock a team out of the playoff. They scored 3 points. I have 3 fingers up for people watching at home. 3 fingers. Good job.
Week 5, buddy. That's all. It's a different story.
Let's keep this train rolling. Also at high noon, ABC, Oklahoma, 3-1 after the loss last week. They are a 6.5 point road favorite on the road at TCU. Got to go back to 2014, actually, to find the last time that TCU won this game because Oklahoma's won 8 in a row since, Dan. Who you got?
This is tricky, right? A little bit? Because it's at TCU?
I am not confident about any of my picks outside of that Michigan game this week.
I like Oklahoma here. And here's why. The hell do we know about TCU? At this point, the hell do we know about first year? We know that overall they should be much more consistent and much more dangerous on offense. I like what their backfield looks like, still beat up at quarterback. I like their receiving core somewhat. They haven't really had a breakout this year consistently. But Tarleton State,
I know.
Colorado, SMU, like there is nothing nothing on their schedule thus far about TCU where you can say, I have a good sense for how the Frogs will do this. No, absolutely not. I'm going Oklahoma here. I think what they lacked in situational plays last week against Kansas State, I think it's fixable relatively quickly. I think TCU will move the ball some, but this is sort of a when push comes to shove matchup to me. So Oklahoma, what are they giving, about a touchdown?
6.5.
Yeah, I have them 13 to 17 points better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm choosing not to read all that deeply into Oklahoma's loss last week because K-State's a good team.
They play good defense anyway.
They play good defense, right? I mean, they did enough to create some third down stops, maintain enough separation to give them the dub at the end. They also got a career performance from Adrian Martinez. I think TCU can score on Oklahoma. I think they'll be better organized on offense than we've seen in a couple years, which is definitely going to be noted improvement if you're a fan of the Horned Frogs. I'm sure they'll be fired up. This is a big game for them at home under a new regime. But Oklahoma is going to be up for this, and TCU has burnt me so many times in the past on games exactly like this, that I just can't go against Oklahoma. I don't see it happening 2 weeks in a row where something goes south here. I mean, point spread is 6.5. If I could bet now on that, actually I did bet on that line at 6.5. I did bet it, legit bet it, because I think, to your point, that Oklahoma is probably about 10 to 14 points better. I think they'll be fine for this game. And it's also not like, the other thing that I want to highlight, it's not like K-State shut down the Oklahoma offense. The Oklahoma offense had moments that I'm sure they'd like back, some deep balls that maybe they didn't complete, that were open, that were overthrown, what have you. It's not like they got shut down. And it's not like they're going to get shut down against TCU. So worst case scenario, this is a shootout. And if in a shootout, I like Oklahoma's chances pretty much 10 times out of 10. So I'm with you. Give me the Sooners.
With those points, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, the big thing to me is TCU's defense has been fine. And Max Duggan has been a surprise as a backup, which is not a crazy surprise given the system, given the Sonny Dykes way of doing things. Max Duggan will start, but I believe Chandler Morris will be available in this game. That's right. So I don't know, maybe both will see time. I'm not. I'm just, in this moment, I think I need to see more from TCU's defense against a more valiant opponent. And SMU, but with a first-year coach, like, they were able to move the ball some. I'm not there.
Look, all you have to say is, speaking of the TCU defense, the competition in the early going has been pretty bad, mostly bad. And they've been terrible at getting off the field on third downs. If the defense can't get off the field against some of these teams, what happens against Oklahoma? That's the problem I have here. All right, moving on. We agree. 12 p.m. ESPN, Kentucky 4-0, Ole Miss 4-0.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss now favored by 6.5 points. I'm going to come out. I'm going to say something here that some of you may find shocking. I apologize for that. I don't know who's winning this game. I have no idea who is winning this game. I think if I had to venture a guess, I would say Ole Miss. I could go either way here. I just don't like that point total. 6.5 in a game that feels dead even to me on many fronts. That's too many points. So I think I go Kentucky plus the 6.5, unless you can talk me into a different course of action.
No, I'm taking Kentucky here as well. I think there's more to bank on with regard to Kentucky's defense, and Ole Miss has been surprisingly, not one note, but far more effective running the ball than consistently throwing the ball, which, look, every year it's a different beast. Every year, every team is a different animal, especially when there's a quarterback change. And Jackson Dart actually did impressive things with his wheels as opposed to his arm last week. So I just think Kentucky can zoom in on the Ole Miss rushing attack. And even if Ole Miss, and then I anticipate them succeeding on the ground some, I just think Kentucky's defense will be good enough to force Jackson Dart to win this game. And it's at home, and it's a Lane Kiffin offense. There's all sorts of things to like about Ole Miss. I don't love going with a road team here against a good offense, but there is more to me that we can bank on with Kentucky making plays on offense with an experienced quarterback themselves. I think they have the quarterback edge with Will Levis against Jackson Dart at this moment.
I agree with that.
And they are, to me, a more mature and more realized team at this moment. So I think Kentucky can muck this up, and so maybe a bit of quicksand here to sink Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that jumped out at me looking through this, I mean, I know I said a few weeks ago that I thought this Ole Miss team could be better than the one we saw last year. I think I caught you off guard with that. I still sort of feel that way, but in looking through the numbers, what's apparent is kind of how Lane Kiffin has changed the narrative around Ole Miss football. Because for a good long time, Ole Miss was a team that aired it out and didn't play any defense. And actually this year, they're better at running the ball and they're a top 20 defense. Pretty good team. Now, I think in this matchup in particular, and I think you were wise to bring this up, I think Kentucky's defense is good enough to hold down or at least contain somewhat that Ole Miss rushing attack. And if you lean a little bit more on Jackson Dart, if you can apply pressure there, I'm not sure how I feel about him yet. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we saw what Kentucky was able to do against Anthony Richardson and how they were able to stymie the Florida offense.
Exactly right. The other thing on the Kentucky side, they've really been lagging behind in terms of rushing offense. They've been going with Cavassier Smoke for the better part of the season because Christopher Rodriguez had been out on suspension. He's coming back for this game. He's going to be back for this game, which gives them a little bit of a boost. I think I'm with you. I think I go Kentucky here. I think some of the factors that we discussed kind of cancel out, and it ends up just being a really close game. I'd love for this to get the 7 points in favor of Ole Miss so that I could jump on Kentucky, but I think I'm going to go Kentucky plus the points regardless.
Yeah, and to be clear, we both recognize and celebrate the Landshark era of Ole Miss football. It was the sort of Matt Luke era of Ole Miss where the defense took
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for clarifying. I don't want to get messages.
The Kimdiche era of Hugh Freeze, Ole Miss.
Love that.
Offense and defense. Yeah, that's all.
3 other games here in that early window that we want to call out very quickly. We've got Texas Tech, K-State. Texas Tech on the road, an 8-point dog now against Kansas State. We've got Illinois on the road at Wisconsin, only a 7.5-point dog, the Brett Bielema Bowl. We've also got Purdue, Minnesota. Minnesota, that line's been going way up. Way up.
Yeah.
Forget what it opened at, but right now it's at 12. So, Texas Tech, K-State, Illinois, Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota, Dan. Who do we got in those games?
I like Kansas State a good deal, even though I'm not sold on a week-to-week Adrian Martinez explosion, that I think he will play with increased confidence after last week. And even though it's a letdown spot, I'd much rather have that letdown spot at home against a team trying to navigate their own letdown situation with Texas Tech's overtime win against Texas. So I like K-State there to win by 10-13.
This is a double letdown look ahead.
Look at that sandwich.
It is.
I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry.
Oh, boy.
Tech's got Oklahoma next week after, obviously, their big win a week ago. And Farmageddon is next week for Kansas State. I'm going to pick Texas Tech. Because after the aforementioned TCU breakup from a couple years ago, I've been reeling. My heart's been in all sorts of pieces, all sorts of places, frankly. And I just need a warm body. And I think Texas Tech is offering me that within the great state of Texas. So Texas Tech might be the new TCU.
Throwing your tortilla?
No? Sure.
Throwing the tortilla. Okay.
I go Illinois plus 7.5.
I like that pick.
Yep. We've talked a lot about Illinois over the last year, how they're just sort of pesky. They're pesky. They play hard. If you look at the advanced numbers, the efficiency metrics for Illinois, they also profile as a team that is a royal pain in the ass. Inconsistent, but they can run and they can cause havoc. And that'll get you places. So I'm not saying they go to Madison and win, but I have kind of sold all of my Wisconsin stock after what they've looked like in the early going here. So I'm going to Illinois.
Indiana loss has not aged well for the Illini. You can say, oh, bad call in the end zone. They had other shots. They had other opportunities. Wisconsin is not playing Ohio State this week. Most teams are going to look like what Wisconsin looked like against Ohio State when they themselves play Ohio State. So I don't think we should overreact to the gulf that has emerged between those two schools, two programs. So this might be an actual buy low on Wisconsin moment. That Illinois lose to Indiana and they look good against who exactly? Like who is they took down Wyoming and Chattanooga comfortably? Like is that something you want to bank on right now that they're going to go to Camp Randall? Now they beat them a couple of years ago in Champaign, did they not? Yeah. But yeah, down Virginia team. Like there's no measuring stick to me with Illinois. And the underlying numbers on defense have been very good. And I think Chase Brown is full on really good. I think this is a moment where you can buy low on Wisconsin. So I'm going to go Badgers here. Badgers. But I anticipate it being competitive for a good chunk of the game.
And finally, in this early window, I go Minnesota minus 12. 12's a big number. But, Aiden O'Connell was out last week for Purdue. I'm assuming he's going to play this week.
I haven't seen that for sure.
Yeah. He was questionable a week ago, so I'm hopeful on the Purdue side that he can come back and play in this game. But, the Gophers just destroyed Michigan State last week. There's no look-ahead threat here. They're going into a bye. They play kind of a just boring style of football. They'll grind you down to a halt. And I think they're really good. I think they're really, really good. So I'll go Minnesota, even though I don't feel great about that 12.
No, I've been going back and forth on this one forever. I think I'm going Minnesota as well. And it's a big number.
12.
But it's in Minneapolis, is it not?
Correct.
Okay, so Minnesota, another one of those teams where, all due respect to Michigan State, have they played anybody as Minnesota? Like, if Michigan State is average, what they did to them was crazy impressive. If they're not average, less so. I think there's less reason, especially with quarterback up in the air. And I realize Austin Burton did make plays last week. And they ran the ball surprisingly well last week, be it against
Why don't we do this?
Yeah.
I see you're talking yourself into a lather. Why don't we both go Purdue? Because we can fully acknowledge we like Minnesota. We think Minnesota's going to win. We don't like the point spread. And something about this line feels weird. Why don't we just both go Purdue? I
say your judgment is so off this week. Minnesota lock of the week.
What?
Yes. How about that?
Lock of the week.
You just made that up.
You convinced me. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm drafting off of the opportunity truck and how I see your vibes emitting from your being.
All right.
Lock up Ski-U-Ma.
I was on Minnesota before you were, so I'm just going to stick with my original pick.
So we're making a pact. That's what we're saying, just in the other direction.
We're making a pact. Yeah. All right. Afternoon window of games. I guess the headliner will be Alabama against Arkansas. It's the CBS game. Alabama 4-0, Arkansas 3-1. Alabama favored by 17.
Is that what it's up to? Jeez.
17. I have Bama by 21.
Okay.
I have Bama by 21, especially after what we saw last week. Two things in particular about this matchup. First off, Arkansas last week knew that Devin Achane was going to get the ball. There's not a whole lot of mystery about whether Max Johnson's going to blow the lid off the defense or what Jimbo's going to try and do in offense. That's pretty much telegraphed. We knew what they were going to do. So they knew what was going to happen as well, and they still couldn't stop it, which is fine, but I think that's a big issue when you're going up against Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Dick Saban, I think Bill O'Brien, they're going to find ways to utilize Jahmyr Gibbs either out of the backfield in space, get him out wide. I mean, they find creative ways to get him the football. He might be their best playmaker outside of Bryce Young on offense. I think it's a big game for Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think they have an answer for him. And secondly, I've been thinking a lot about what you said on Sunday about KJ Jefferson. Uh-oh. And no, this is a prophetic moment from you. And I appreciate your wisdom. You were mentioning how the loss of Treylon Burks is a bigger deal than some have given it credit for. And I think it's such an important point. We talked about it a lot in the preseason. It wasn't something that was totally off the radar. Traylon Burks, obviously a pro player now. KJ Jefferson is good enough to single-handedly win games against most of the teams on Arkansas' schedule. But what I think we're going to learn is that he needs help if they want to beat some of the top 15 caliber defenses out there. Like Jaden Hazelwood, a good transfer, a fine transfer. He's a big body dude.
Landers has had a good year. Yeah.
Big body dude, but he's a different cat than Traylon Burks. He's just different. And it just feels to me like there is that extra gear missing this year for the Hogs. Still a very good team, but I think not having that extra gear makes them a little less dangerous. I would also add on top of all that this is Alabama's first road game since the Texas debacle. And though I'm not sure if they've solved their own issues on offense in the downfield passing game and some of the stuff that, I know they're still trying to work out, and they will eventually, I don't think they need to do any of that to win this game comfortably. I just think it's a mismatch. Even though that number's huge, even though the game is in Arkansas, I'm on Alabama by 21.
Yeah, they haven't been covering as much on the road these past couple of years, Alabama, as some of those bigger numbers as favorites. I'm going Alabama as well here, and it's more out of concern for Arkansas. And you say you still think Arkansas is very good. I'm not positive that's the case. They've taken a step back in the passing game. They're giving up big plays on defense, both on the ground and through the air.
Yeah.
The thing that they've probably done the strongest, and look, the schedule has been very odd. They open with Cincinnati, and then they have South Carolina and A&M, like sort of all over the place. And so we have a good idea of what Arkansas is and isn't. I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried that last year was kind of a perfect storm of a year, and I just think there's something a little bit off with Arkansas right now. And I think even last year, they were able to lose a game 37-0 against Georgia. This year's Alabama was not last year's Georgia. I get that. I think I have this as like 34-17 or 37-17. I have Alabama covering this. Maybe close for a half, but it opens up in the second.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Dan. I think we agree.
Okay.
Also in that 3:30 afternoon window, we got Oklahoma State at Baylor. 3:30 on Fox. Baylor favored by 2.5, 3 points at home. Important disclaimer right now from the altar of Ty. I don't feel like I know Oklahoma State at all. This season, really any season.
I mean, who have they played this year that you can
I don't just mean this season. I mean every season. I never have a fix on Oklahoma State. They haven't played anyone unless you're counting Arizona State.
I do not.
But I have a real blind spot for Oklahoma State because every year, at least since Spencer Sanders has been there, I feel like I count this team out unjustifiably. I sell Spencer Sanders short, and then he comes back to, put in a reasonable effort. Oklahoma State wins and covers. So with all that being said, I'm going to defer.
I mean, that was the story of the Fiesta Bowl, was it?
It was the precise
Spencer Sanders.
Yeah. I mean, we saw it play out in two halves of football.
Yeah.
I'm going to defer to you for the first pick here.
I think Spencer Sanders is largely really, really good. I just don't have that trust because I say largely because he kind of has a Baylor issue specifically. Played him twice last year. I don't know if I wrote this down. I kind of hate it, but I also secretly kind of love it. So Spencer Sanders just floating through the ocean, just as a successful quarterback, just trying not to get sucked into the Baylor Baleen. You know what I'm talking about, Ty. In this situation, I feel like he is aggressively talented Krill, maybe? I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay.
But Baleen, that he and his game get sucked into Baylor. And I'm not there. Baylor at home and Oklahoma State coming off of a bye, are they not?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I worry about that first real opponent, Baylor improving, finding problematic influencer Gavin Holmes. That's his name, right? He is, to be clear, Gavin Holmes, to my knowledge, is not a problematic influencer. His name just makes him sound like one. I'm going Baylor here.
Yeah.
I'm going Baylor here because I know more about the good and bad of Baylor. The game's in Waco, and there is some sort of blockage, it seems, with Spencer Sanders and Baylor, and different players, different guys. But I think Baylor is rounding into shape nicely, and the game is in Waco, so I'm going with the Bears.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a tell in the efficiency numbers about the way this one's going to go. Oklahoma State has not proven itself much of a running team this year. Their rushing profile, kind of a car crash, honestly. It's not good.
Yeah.
I think Baylor's happy to play that game. I think they would love to let Spencer Sanders throw as much as he'd like. Keep in mind, as you said, the Bears accounted for 7 of his 12 interceptions last season. I don't expect he'll struggle to the same degree this year because the Bears' pass defense is not as good. However, Dave Aranda's happy to play that style. He is happy to play that style. I think he feels good about his offense after what we saw last week. It feels like there's been some progress there. The running game has slowly emerged as a complement to Blake Shapen, which was one of my big questions coming into the season. I'm not saying I'm fully in on Baylor. I stand by the fact that their over-under was 7.5 for a reason. I know what that reason was during the season. I believe Dave Aranda is good enough to fix it, but I like Baylor too. I think this is a good game. I think this is close. I'm excited to watch it as my main game, my volume game in this window. I think it's Baylor like 28-24, something like that. I'm debating whether or not I actually want to bet on this game because I actually feel pretty good about Baylor. But I just think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be close. These are two good teams.
Yeah, the Baylor defense is quietly emerging in a really impressive way.
All right.
Just because we've seen them play against Iowa State and BYU. We have data points on them that are meaningful. And Oklahoma State, you would think that their numbers and their performances would be indicative of absolute dominance, and it's not really there yet.
5 other games here that I want to rifle through if we can.
Let's.
In the afternoon window. There's so many games this time around, Dan. We had to organize it by window. Just to try and keep it all straight. I couldn't keep them organized if they did it the old way.
Yep.
Wake Forest at Florida State. 3:30 ABC, Florida State favored by 7. Important to note, this is the first time under Mike Norvell that Florida State has been favored against an AP-ranked opponent.
Wow.
How about that for a nug?
Got some couple bottlenose Dolphins looking majestic through the air. Jordan Travis and Sam Hartman in my right tie. Virtual high five.
Yeah. Wake Forest, bit of a letdown after last week with the Clemson game, the overtime game. I really want to go Florida State here.
Do it. You coward.
Potentially a weather-affected game.
Yeah.
Potentially Florida State's good, but not good enough to get this much separation against another good team. And that's what really worries me. That's why I'm going Wake Forest plus 7.
As am I.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not fully sold on Florida State's defense quite yet, and I think Wake and Sam Hartman will be able to move the ball against just about anybody. Doesn't mean that they can beat just about anybody, but I think this is back and forth. And in this type of shootout or in a weather-affected game, I like to take points, so that's precisely what I'm doing.
3:30 ESPN2, Iowa State -3 on the road at 4-0 Kansas. Good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're an Iowa State fan, you have no reason to not root for Kansas here, right?
I agree. America's team.
Kansas is
Or
America's
I suppose
team.
a Mizzou fan. I think there's obviously residual feelings, but yeah.
I got to go Kansas plus the points at home. Why not? What the hell?
As am I. And my logic is simply I think Iowa State is a more complete team because I think they play better defense, and I think they are able to move the ball in more creative ways than they were able to show in the Cy-Hawk game. But still, I'm a firm believer that there is going to be a threshold, a number of points that you have to hit against Kansas to beat them. And that's somewhere around 30.
Yeah.
And that's where I worry about Iowa State.
Yeah.
I don't think Kansas is going to win a ton of games this year. But at home, with a lot of the good vibes surrounding the Jayhawk program, I still worry about Iowa State and explosive plays and making teams pay. So I'm going Kansas here to pull this one out at home and keep the good vibes rolling. Let's call it 34-30.
Oregon State at Utah. Utah favored by 10.5 points.
Lock of the week.
2 things to note here, Dan.
I'm ready.
Huge mismatch on the front line. Huge mismatch between Utah's offensive line, Oregon State's front, I think Tavian Thomas may swallow them whole.
Yeah, so on the ground specifically, because Oregon State did a nice job getting after Caleb Williams.
They did a nice job getting after Caleb Williams, but I think specifically that matchup on the ground is why Utah is the pick here. It's also a letdown spot for Oregon State. They're traveling. They're on the road. I'm locking up Utah minus 10.5.
I like that pick a lot. I'm confidently taking Utah here. Letdown spot, altitude, Tyler, and ooh, quick on the draw. I like that. And the very specific mismatch of what USC was able to do on the ground, I think Utah is going to continue that. I just think Utah is a more complete team than USC and will systematically destroy the Beavs in a revenge spot as well, if you remember. Yeah,
a revenge spot. Okay.
Yeah.
Michigan State at Maryland. You sent me the eyes emoji when I sent this point spread to you on Sunday, and it's gone up.
Yeah.
It's gone up. It's over a touchdown. Maryland favored at home by 7.5 at time of recording over Sparty. This is, in effect, a giant vote of no confidence from Vegas in Michigan State. I am taking Michigan State with the points, though, for two reasons. Two very important reasons. First off, big letdown spot for Maryland after the Michigan game. Coming back home, I mean, I think they'll be ready for this one, but it takes you a while sometimes to process a loss of that magnitude. And secondly, I know Maryland has been talking how they want to beat the top four consistently, the blah, blah, blah. I know how they're slowly trying to rid themselves of the mistakes that have come back to bite them the last couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland's got to prove it to us, Dan. They got to prove they can win a game like this. I know they've gotten a couple here and there, but they need to prove that when push comes to shove, without any kind of fluke, without any kind of weird happenstance, at home, favored against one of the better teams, let's say, in the Big Ten East, that they can actually get the job done. They're like a year removed from them being called an elite loser by you. So Maryland just needs to prove it to me. I'm happy to be wrong about this one, but I'm going to go Michigan State until further notice.
I need Michigan State's defense to prove to me that they are not fully stocked with wacky waving, inflatable, arm flailing tube men that are outside of car dealerships, Ty, because that is something we're still waiting for after these last 2 weeks. So the combination of Peyton Thorne missing guys, not being able to run the ball with Kenneth Walker now moving on to the NFL, and he was kind of a bailout situation that they weren't actually able to rush super well last year. He was just a home run hitter that was able to change games, and rightfully so. He was a Heisman caliber running back last year. He was incredible for the Spartans. You couple that with a defense that rolled 10 of 12 last week for Minnesota on third downs.
No.
Situationally, I don't think they have the guys to get it done, especially with the lack of favors the offense is doing them. This might be a situation where Vegas is still playing catch up on the depths to the sea floor that Michigan State may be falling this year as they try to turn around a defense. I'm worried about the Terps a little on that side, just because I think Talia and Raheem Jarrett are game time decisions.
Yep.
So that has me a little bit scared. But the game's at home, and there is that team that Vegas takes a while to catch up to. And the ugliness of that, the Washington game and the Minnesota game, two teams who I think are good. I'm going Maryland here. I'm going Terps.
Final game in this window, and then we'll move to the nightcap. Texas A&M at Mississippi State. Mississippi State favored by 3.5. You made a comment on yesterday's show about Georgia Tech that I have internalized. Something to the effect of knowing what you are, steering into it with the next chapter of their football program. But I think that applies throughout all of life, Dan. Know what you are. Mm-hmm. Be self-aware. Work with your strengths and try to improve on your weaknesses, right?
Agree.
Let me tell you who I am, Dan.
Who are you?
I am a guy who's never picked Texas A&M or Mississippi State correctly. I've never picked one of the... I don't know if anybody's got data on this. I know we have some verballers who track. It would probably take a lot of legwork to go back and find out. I have to believe that my winning percentage when one of these two teams is involved is something like 4%. Mm-hmm. I never, ever get these games right. So I'm deferring to you. Who do you got?
It's a letdown look-ahead sandwich situation with A&M between Arkansas and Bama. Is that correct?
Correct.
not that Mississippi State is a look-ahead team. You don't look ahead. They lost this game last year in kind of ugly fashion. I'm going Mississippi State here. I'm going Mississippi State here because I think the key ways in which you can get this state team is big plays through the air, and I'm not there with A&M.
No.
I'm just not. I think they're, and you know how I feel about Mississippi State. I'm probably always a little too high on them. But in this case, the game's in Starkville, is it not?
Game is in Starkville, correct.
The current number is?
Current number is 3.5 in favor of State.
I kind of, if the viewpoint is that these two teams are relatively close, I think I'm taking Mike Leach in a 3-minute spot, then I'm more likely to take Max Johnson and Jimbo, right?
Look, don't
Am I
ask
crazy?
me. I'm telling you, no, you're not crazy because I'm always wrong. I am always wrong with these two teams all the
Right.
time.
So just go with your gut and then go the other way. So what does your gut say?
My gut says Texas A&M.
Okay, so take State. There it is.
All right.
Fade yourself.
Let's talk about the nightcaps. 7:30 ABC, NC State at Clemson. Both teams are 4-0. Clemson favored by 6.5 points. Now, of note, it looks like rain. It looks like wind on Saturday night, which is not great for the passing game on either side. Both sides are good enough to contain the other's rushing attack. So this, at least, if you factor that in, I'm not saying they're going to be torrential downpours. I don't think it's going to look like that Notre Dame Clemson game that I watched way back when from a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to look like that, but it's going to be sloppy. And so, at least on the surface, this kind of profiles as an ugly game with not a lot of points, where 6.5 could be too many.
I'm taking NC State. I'm taking NC State because I think it's going to be, and I don't know if it's a weather thing, and I don't know if it's a quarterback thing. I believe DJU is improved. I don't think he gets a lot of help. I don't think his offensive line is especially good. I don't think his running game, and it's not a Will Shipley thing. I just don't think they are operating to their potential. And I don't think the receiving caliber is great and where it has been. So even though I don't love NC State's offense, I think, and I don't put them in the category that they're also a boggy death lagoon, whatever I called Iowa.
This could be a boggy something, depending
Yeah.
on, they might get like an inch of rain throughout the course of the day.
I'm taking NC State here. I'm taking NC State here because I am more confident in their ability to succeed in totality on defense. I have no idea how good Clemson's defense is, though I have some concerns about the secondary and pass rush in this very specific moment. So, yeah, too many points. I think it's going to be close either way, so I'm going to go with State.
I am on State as well. I think if there's potential for a mud fest, Dabo wins those types of games. I'm not saying he's going to lose outright, but potentially ugly game. NC State's solid. They've definitely underwhelmed. Let's be clear. They've definitely underwhelmed, especially on offense this season. But they're solid. They're a solid team. And a solid team in a big spot, they'll be up for it. Maybe the weather affects it, maybe it doesn't, but I just think it's close. So
Same.
I'm going to take those points happily. Give me NC State plus 6.5. Also, LSU minus 8.5 points at Auburn, which feels like a lot. What's crazy is that Auburn's 3-1. Their only loss is to a team in our Verballer top 10, Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And still, we're basically counting down until Brian Harsin gets fired. It feels like every week, is this going to be the week? Now, they won last week. They got a little bit of luck, but they won last week. They're 3-1. I was trying to think, has there ever been a mid-season performance-based firing when a team has a winning record?
Ooh, interesting question.
I can't think of one off the top of my head. Performance-based, not some sort of NCAA infraction. We're doing an investigation after a bombshell report type of thing.
Right.
But 3-1, have they underwhelmed? Yeah. The quarterback position is still a mess. They definitely have issues, but their only loss is to a pretty good team. And 8.5 in this case feels like a lot to me. It's not like LSU's ironclad. LSU, we like LSU a great deal. We both feel pretty good about LSU, and I think they're going to continue to improve. But 8.5 at night? Nah. I'll take Auburn here.
You dum-dum. Auburn is a cover Sherpa. If you're worried about covering a spread against Auburn, Tigers will help you out.
Are you saying
they're
they're
0-4?
The cure for the common point spread?
They are the cure for the common spread.
Interesting.
They're 0-4 against the spread. They in wins disappoint, in losses disappoint. They are disappointments, right? You're not just mad, you're disappointed. You're not mad, you're disappointed. I think LSU, this is, again, it's the cure for the sloppiness quotient that LSU has played with at times. The inconsistencies in offense and dreadful special teams in that isolated nightmare, I'm sure, for LSU fans. I think they comfortably win this game by 17 to 24 points.
17 to 24 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we make a bet on that? Like a
Just
side
Auburn.
bet?
Like, do you want to go with a different spread? Like, are you trying to say, like, I'll give you LSU minus 10?
No, I mean,
Minus 11?
I'll give you LSU minus 8.5. I'll give you the actual point spread.
So what are we betting? We're going to meet in New York.
We are going to meet in New York. Maybe we can throw this one out to the folks on Patreon.
Yeah.
And on our Discord.
Give us some stakes. Yeah.
Let us know. Nothing crazy. We're not shaving heads. We're not getting tattoos.
Right.
But
I don't know what there is to like about Auburn. And like, they beat San Jose State and Mercer and Mizzou on a freak occurrence at the end.
no.
Okay. Demolished by Penn State at home.
They did get
no less, by the way.
demolished by Penn State.
Penn State hasn't been able to run the ball in 73 years, and Auburn was the cure for that. Was Penn State able to run who'd they have last week? Central Michigan?
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
I think Nick Singleton had like 17 feet of rushing yardage.
Katron Allen.
Something awful.
Katron Allen.
No, I know.
Katron looked
But I'm
okay.
saying, when your team is unable to do a very specific thing, and then they roll into Jordan Hur and do it all the time, Auburn's not good.
All right.
Okay.
3 more games very quickly here.
Yeah.
Late night. 10:30 ESPN, Arizona State going to USC. Just throwing this one out there just because USC is always notable. USC is a 26-point favorite. I mean, is there any reason to go ASU?
No, that's the operative question. If you're going to take points in any scenario, you have to have an answer. You have to be able to defend your choice with something that team can do to stay competitive-ish. And I don't have that for ASU.
I don't have
so
that.
I'll just give
And
those
you know
points.
what?
Yeah.
I had a circumstance like this a couple weeks ago when Arizona State played Oklahoma State. And I that same logic applied.
Yeah.
And I took ASU and I got burnt. Oklahoma State won and covered. So I'm not going to do that again.
Hold on. To be clear, your Pac-12 wild card, Arizona State.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate that. I did once pick Arizona State to go to the playoff, not this year, and that also failed.
Yeah, that's okay.
Me and Kirk Herbstreit.
You just love that area. You love the valley.
I love the mountains.
So much down there in Phoenix. Yeah.
We just have hills here in PA. We don't have mountains.
I
Those
know.
are cool, man.
You love the desert, the living desert.
I do. All right. 11 p.m., Stanford against Oregon. Oregon favored by 17 points.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Pretty good. Pretty good because of the way they came out at home against BYU and that they game plan well. Like, they were able to move the ball the entirety of the Wazoo game. And you look at when Wazoo was able to move the ball, it was a lot of trick plays and screens and crazy freak plays from Cameron Ward. Like, Oregon's defense adjusted well enough in that game. And Stanford's not good. That's the other thing. Now, Stanford
But also,
Stanford's not good. But also, number two, Stanford does have a specific advantage in that Tanner McKee can stand tall. He's relatively accurate, and Oregon's pass rush hasn't been incredible. The secondary, they have a really good corner, but by and large, the pass defense hasn't been great with what BYU was able to do advancing the ball, even though they weren't able to finish drives against Oregon. That Stanford has some big receivers. I think E.J. Smith is now out for the year, though. They're starting
right.
running
It's a
back,
bummer.
which is unfortunate. I just don't think Stanford has that ability to carry it out over 4 quarters. So, yeah, I'm going to give the points here. Not confidently, but there's not enough there for Stanford, especially when you look at this defense and how they were, gashed by USC for a chunk of that game, gashed by Washington, although they handled Washington better than Michigan State. Well, most people are going to do more good things than Michigan State.
right.
I think ultimately, yeah, this is going to be a neck crack matchup situation for Oregon because of how, they lose last year in the weird ways that they do without Joe Moorhead. They've lost a lot of strange games to Stanford. I'm taking Oregon here, and I'm going to give those points to sort of shake off some of that rust.
Say a neck crack.
A neck crack.
There we go.
Oh, there it
Get
is.
that in there. Reset that joint. Finally, let's close it out with Friday. You mentioned there were a couple interesting matchups on Friday. The one that I've got highlighted here is Washington on the road -3 at UCLA. But we've also got Tulane, Houston, which is interesting for a number of reasons. UTSA against Middle Tennessee, San Diego State against Boise State, and we'll just throw in New Mexico against UNLV. Maybe not quite the headliner, but
No.
5 games there in the Friday evening slot, Dan. Starting with Washington, UCLA. Who do you got?
This is interesting. I think I'm going to go UCLA here, and I don't love UCLA, but situationally, Washington has looked very strong, and I think they are a good program. But I think situationally, late at night, UCLA, the ability to play offense, which, we can say this about a number of teams. We think Washington is good, but their schedule and the games that have occurred with those teams surrounding the Washington games can leave some doubt in our minds. So, has Washington played somebody? Do we know what Washington actually is? I think this would go a long way if Washington is if they're comfortable winners in this game against UCLA. I think that's a good measuring stick because at their best, UCLA is interesting. Obviously, they can play down to South Alabama and the Jags. They absolutely can. I'm going to go UCLA here. I'm going to go UCLA at home, late night, ability to run the ball. Kind of hate UCLA's defense, but ignoring that, I'm going to go UCLA.
Yeah, I think the more interesting bet is actually the over. Over-under is 64.5 points. I could see this one being,
I like that.
I could see this one being a shootout. A lot of points one way or the other. I've seen a lot of folks on UCLA for this game. So you're not in the minority by any stretch. My inclination is to say Washington because they've looked so damn impressive this year. I just feel like it's a different regime. It's a different vibe altogether around this team. But situationally, could do better.
Also,
could do better.
I'm trying to figure out the right way to phrase this, but we have been a party to the Michael Penix experience. That for every game, for every 2 games, for every 3 games, there is a 4 yards per attempt kind of matchup that we're trying to assess the data and the elite losing of Indiana with the more sound Kalen DeBoer experience at Washington thus far. There's just things that we're putting into the stock pot when we're evaluating this game.
The other thing we should mention, Kent State, Portland State, Michigan State, and Stanford.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That we are likely thinking Washington is good and that they have performed like a good team should against that schedule because they've left no doubt.
No, they've been very, very solid in their wins.
Yeah.
It's not been smoke and mirrors.
But this is the type of win that a potentially more established program gets away with. And I still think they're going to... Man, I just think Washington's good, so that makes it really difficult. But I'm going UCLA situationally because of the weird Friday night.
Yeah.
There's going to be 11 people at this game. It's going to throw them off. Washington's used to a much more full stadium. If you're in LA, even if you're a UCLA fan and you live nowhere near Pasadena, are you canceling your Friday night plans to do something else, to go to the Rose Bowl to see UCLA, Washington, drive across town? I don't know. It's going to be Washington's a real program. They're a ranked team. I just think it's going to be a weird environment.
All right. Any other games here that you want to throw out before we put a bow on this guy?
So I have Navy Air Force. So we have Commander-in-Chief's trophy implications, of course. And Navy coming off of a win is the least interesting, but they're going to altitude. I know you have a sound. Georgia Southern. There it is.
Sorry.
Georgia Southern Coastal. Obviously, Georgia Southern goes down to UAB after beating Nebraska, but I think this is going to be a fun back and forth. Cal Washington State for maybe 3rd-tier Pac-12 supremacy, something 4th-tier Pac-12 supremacy. I think Washington State's the clear better team, but in a letdown spot after getting that close against Oregon, and Cal can run the ball now, Dan says, questionably.
Jay not, baby.
Cincinnati at Tulsa. Cincinnati, clearly the better team. But what does Tulsa do? They beat clearly better teams at least once a year. Just keep an eye on that. That's all I'm saying. West Virginia, Texas. Quinn Ewers is a maybe. We don't know the status of that. And West Virginia, I like pieces. I'm a little bit worried. I think their offense has improved. I still don't love their line. Defense is fine. That's a weird game. That's just a weird game. Virginia, Duke. Is Riley Leonard for real? Is Duke driving to 6? This Virginia is one of the games that Duke people are counting on. So there's that. Sunday, by the way, is Eastern Washington, Florida, and SMU UCF. And I actually think the latter of those two is pretty interesting. So that's something, if you're not an NFL person and you find yourself on a couch, SMU UCF, not the worst option. Can John Rice Plumlee keep winning without being able to throw the ball as a quarterback? Who knows? Drop some big stanky Drummond fight.
All right, it's Patriot League lightning round. Let's do it, Dan.
I'm ready.
12 o'clock, Monmouth squaring off against the Lehigh Mountain Hawks. Who you got?
I don't pick Lehigh.
No, me neither.
Monmouth, absolutely. Give me the mouth.
Let's go 1 p.m. Cornell on the road at Colgate, Dan.
Yeah.
Colgate 1-3 so far this year.
Yeah, give me the Nellies. Sorry.
No, I don't. Oh, no, this is not.
I know.
This is not Bucknell. This is Cornell.
Yeah, this is a different Nell. This is Nellie's too.
This is Big Red. Okay.
Yeah.
Got the big bear hugging the seat.
Nard dog. Yeah.
Go Cornell. 1 p.m. Holy Cross at 4-0, squaring off against Harvard.
Harvard.
2-0. Who you got?
Is this at Fenway Park as you've listed it?
This game is not at Fenway Park. I was trying to throw you off.
That's too bad. I'm going with Crusaders. I'm rolling Crusaders. You know how I roll.
I'll go Crusaders as well. 1 p.m. Georgetown at 1-3, away from Multisport Field, squaring off against the Fordham Rams, New York's one true team.
Fordham minus anything. You know how I roll. I'm in that Photos Coca-Ludus? I forget how it loses. How do you say his name? Sorry. I roll
just Fotis. It's just Fotis.
Fotis.
It's like Pele or Cher, just one word.
Yeah.
And last but not least, as we bring the music down,
oh man,
Lafayette on the road at Bucknell. Any reason to not go Yeti here?
No, I'm going Yeti. And just judging by the sheer number of women you've dated from Easton, PA, how do you go against it?
I mean,
that's all. Yeah, I'm going Lafayette.
We'll go Yetis. We'll go Yetis.
I'm a Leopard legacy.
All right. If you are out and about, if you cannot imbibe all that is college football goodness in week 5, and you find yourself running errands, picking up kids, Lord knows where, it's the weekend. These things happen if you're normal, unlike Dan and I. Listen to the College Football Blitz. It is on your radio dial on the Varsity Network app, which free to download, or you can listen on ESPNU Radio, channel 84 on Sirius XM. It is, in effect, the NFL red zone for college football. You get 12 hours of coverage every Saturday, starting at noon Eastern. It runs all the way until midnight. Here is what they do. What's cool about this is because they zoom into different games. You get to hear hometown coverage of all the big plays. You hear 56 minutes of live commentary per hour. There's only 3 minutes of commercial breaks. So if you like college football, if you really enjoy that sort of hometown feel, to take in the vibe, the atmosphere, truly understand what's going on in a game if you can't be in front of your television, College Football Blitz is where you go to hear the touchdowns happen, called by some of the hometown radio guys, hosted by our friend Steven Hartzell, known lovingly here as Stevie Speedrun, does a fantastic job. The entire production crew behind that operation they're wizards. I don't know how they do this.
I like to picture, even though I know it's not technologically true, I like to picture Stevie Speedrun behind one of those giant old-fashioned operator switchboards.
Just kind of putting...
Where he's just unplugging, plugging. Oh my God, it's close to Colorado State. Oh my God, it's close to Cal. And he is using some sort of cables to plug physical cables into the switchboard and to the interface so that we can go live to see what's happening in Pullman.
I don't know how he does it. I have no idea how he does it. And it's not just him. There are other folks who kind of pitch in throughout the course of the day because he's only one man with so much energy.
We all poop.
I don't get how it's even possible to do what they do. Anyway,
It's incredible.
I'm waxing poetic here. Listen to the College Football Blitz. They do an awesome, amazing job. They're dependable partners of us here. We love all things College Football Blitz and the kind things that they have to say about us as well. So
Yeah.
that is all I have. Don't forget, solidgiveaway.com is where you can go and sign up for a CJ Stroud signed mini helmet. Don't forget to go on out to solidverballive.com. If you like this show, if you're on the fence, just know that there is a chance our live show on Friday, October the 7th, could horribly go off the tracks.
Yeah.
There is a degree of difficulty with doing this game show that we have not fully expressed here in audio only.
It's going to be so fun. I can't wait. It's going to be great. I'm not worried about that at all. I can't wait.
These are the things that I worry about.
I know.
And I'm a little worried. It could happen. It could happen.
Fair.
But
we need to do a secret verbal soon. Do we not?
You want to do it
We
now?
haven't done one
You wanna
this
do it now?
season. Do you have any recipient ideas? I'm always good for the actual message. Do you have any recipient ideas?
Why don't we throw this out to the folks who are watching the live stream? If there are any suggestions, just write them in. We haven't done a secret verbal in quite some time. Explain for the fine folks what a secret verbal is, Dan.
A secret verbal is when we, at the end of the show, to ensure that people are still paying attention, we are going to tell you to tweet a secret message at somebody, and you will not say where the instructions have come from. So if we were to say, okay, tweet Ty Hildenbrandt, thanks for the back massage, it really worked.
Yeah.
And then Ty is inundated with people saying, thanks for the back massage, it really worked.
Yeah.
We can use that specific.
Thanks for the back massage, yeah.
Thanks again for the back massage. Never felt better.
Yeah.
Who do you want? Who would be that recipient?
I don't know if I want that one, to be honest with you. People might be made uncomfortable by that.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
That implication.
Didn't we have people accuse Will Leach of eating orca meat?
We did have people accuse Will Leach of eating orca.
Yeah, somebody you know is checking their mentions.
Should we get another podcaster, another college football podcaster?
Who?
You want to get Alex Kirshner?
Alex Kirshner?
I don't
Sure.
think we've gotten
What's
Alex
his,
yet. It is.
What is his?
Alex
he does a great job over.
Yeah, he's great. Alex _Kirshner. KIRSHNER. What are we sending
Spell
to
it
Alex?
one more time.
It is Alex, ALEX _Kirshner. KIRSHNER. Give folks their instructions here.
And you really don't want to do the massage?
I mean, you can if you want. I don't want it to be weird for people.
I think it's great.
All right.
Thank Alex Kirshner for the back massage and say it really seemed to work out the nuts.
Okay. Again, do not mention the solid verbal. Do not tell him.
Do not mention the solid verbal. Do not. No.
It's all in good fun.
Just without prompting, tweet at Alex. Thanks again for the killer back massage. You really worked out all the knots. I feel like a new person.
All right. That does it, folks. We appreciate everybody stopping on by. If you made it this far, why not peek in at 5 p.m.? 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West. This show drops Thursday morning for the general public, though some of our folks at Verballerhood.com are either listening live, watching live, getting access to this early. You can, too, if you're going out to our Patreon. But if you are, I don't know, in the market for some live college football talk, there are going to be games on Thursday. We got all sorts of things to discuss about the week ahead. We've got a fun game that I'm very excited about that we can discuss in a little bit more detail as things get closer, as we're actually in the throes of this. But it should be fun. College Football Thursdays only on Spotify. Go to solidverbal.com/Spotify, Dan.
Boom. Love it.
For that guy over there, my good friend, Dan Rubenstein. For myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thanks again for downloading, listening, supporting the show. We will talk to you all soon. In the meantime, enjoy your week 5. Stay safe. Stay happy. Stay solid.
Peace.